Hello, everyone. This is another episode of Fire Breathing Rob. Thanks so much for listening. And I really am honored and privileged to have this man on. He is running for Assemblyman 40 over in New York City. And this is Stephen Lee. He's a sergeant, or he was a sergeant in the NYPD.
Still am.
Oh, still am. I'm sorry about that. So he is a sergeant in the NYPD, and he's running for Assemblyman over in Flushing, New York, and that is Assemblyman District 40. So
Right.
let's talk about this, Sergeant. With that said, can you talk about policing and tell the viewers a little bit about that whistleblowing story? I know, we talked about the rape charges on the commanding officer. Can you go a little bit more in depth about that?
Wow, this could be a long conversation. Um, yeah, so been a police officer for 15 years. 8 years of it, I spent in East Flatbush as a police officer, policing that community, and I grew up around there. I have friends around there, and then in 2013, I got promoted as a sergeant. Got transferred to 109 Precinct, policing mostly Asian community, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to help my community, and one day, well, the way the policing is set up is the lieutenants were running the show, and the cops morale was down, and they asked the union rep to bring in a new commanding officer, and that commanding officer was cleaning up the precinct, bringing morale back up, and so forth and so on. Some of the lieutenants didn't like it, and one of the lieutenant was like, "Hey, Steve, we need to get rid of this guy." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "We need to get one of the girls say that he raped her out of the karaoke, something like that." So I thought he was just venting at first. I waited a week later, during that week, he kept on bringing it up. So I knew he was serious. I walked into my commanding officer's office, and I gave him the heads up. He was a squared away guy. He's, doing the right thing by helping the cops and bring the morale back up. I gave him the heads up. He dropped a complaint to Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs asked me if I could get it on recording. I said, sure, why not? And then, it just started from there. I started hanging out with this lieutenant in bars and stuff like that, in karaoke settings. And we found out that he was getting money from karaoke's. He was getting money from like bars and stuff like that. He was getting money from gambling houses. Well, actually, they were robbing gambling houses. He was getting money from prostitution places, from human traffickers, from rapists, and it wasn't just him. It was a whole network of cops, and I wanted to expose the whole network, right? It wasn't just cops. Also, it was mostly upper brass, right? And I wanted to expose them, but they didn't want to do it. So they didn't want to go after them. They kept it isolated to the lieutenant, and then they had to include the detective because he was too much involved. And then all the other guys, they let skate away. And after we arrested them, it was a year and a half of undercover work, right? After we arrested them, they didn't want to go after them. I kept on bringing it up. I kept on pushing it, and they didn't like it. So they wanted to, protect their own upper ranks. And so they started coming after me. They tried to destroy my character. And then, that's when they silence you after that. They fire you, and then they get rid of you, and so forth and so on. But my union rep was like, get a lawyer. They're coming for you. And, I was like, I want a union lawyer. They're like, no, don't get a union lawyer. They only have their own interests in mind. They use that as a bargaining chip. You need to get a private lawyer. So I got a private lawyer, and, I've been fighting them since then. And they still mess with me here and there. And then, I decided I'm going to run for a public office, and, being a police officer after what I seen, your dreams get crushed, right? So it's like the force department is never what you thought it was, and you just don't want to do it no more. So
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I just had a question, Sergeant Steve. So with that said, how are you still working in that kind of environment? I remember hearing you on other interviews where they said if you want a day off, they wouldn't give it to you. They'd mess with you like that. They were trying to do stuff like that to push you out on bad shifts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if somebody keeps screwing with you, how do you work like that?
I'm getting my tour changed, like one day I'm working mornings, one day I'm working nights, one day I'm working afternoons. You know,
Jeez.
yeah, like the days off I want sometimes, like, oh, sorry, you can't get, you got to cover for this other person, and so forth and so on. And I'm just putting up with it. I'm so used to it. I've been facing that since 2016, 17. So,
Wow.
you know, I'm used to it. And it's just, some of the senior people were like, listen, don't let them know that it bothers you. And then just take it day by day.
Mm.
So it doesn't really bother me. I make the best of it. If I'm working nights, okay, so what? I work nights. If I work mornings, I work mornings. So what? Doesn't matter to me anymore. It's nothing they can really do to rescue you like that much. They try to nitpick their own things and stuff like that, and you just you gotta fight.
Yeah.
If you don't fight back, they're just gonna keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. And if you start fighting back, you just every time they do something, you fight back, and then I shoot out to my lawyer. Look what they're doing now. Look what they're doing now. And then they just keep adding it to the lawsuit. That's all. Yeah.
So with that said, they're not only going after you. I was told that they're also going after your family. They went after your daughter at
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that too?
So right after no, actually, was it after or it might be during? It's close to us arresting the officers, and one of the lieutenants that we investigated got transferred to my resident precinct.
Mm.
My daughter was in class and she was bored, and so she did one of these gestures to one of the other kids, like I'm bored out
Right.
of my mind, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Teacher saw it as a form of disrespect. She's like, Angelina, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm bored out of my mind. And she's like, oh, you can't do that. That's disrespectful. Go to the principal's office, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
so the principal is like, oh, what's wrong? Whatever. And she's like, I'm bored out of my mind. And then she's like, oh, so you're trying to say we don't entertain you, whatever, so forth and so on. So they call me in. They're like, you take your daughter home. You need to explain to her she can't do that. They try to say she's
Wow.
suicidal. And I'm like, she's not suicidal. She's a regular preteen.
Mm.
This is in junior high school. She's a preteen, and she's just bored. That's normal for teens, right? Especially preteens.
Yeah.
And at first they were like okay and stuff like that. Then when they call the cops, because procedures call the cops when they have a suicidal person, right? The cops showed up. It's my resident precinct, and then they found out who I was, and then they tried to send her to the psych ward.
Wow.
Yeah, because at first we had agreed with the teachers. You could take her home, whatever. Don't worry about it, right? Just make sure she doesn't disrespect whatever the class again, right? So okay, cool. I talked to her, right?
Yeah.
But then when the cops came, they're like, no, 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 no. We're sending her to Long Island Jewish Hospital, and she's going to the psych ward. And I'm like, are you effing kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
like the teacher said I could take her. No, no, no. We're taking her to the psych ward. Whatever. Brought her there, and I followed the ambulance there, and then luckily the doctor there in the emergency room at the time was Asian, and she interviewed Angelina, and she was like, why is she even here? I'm like, exactly. Why is she even here? But then, there was a big ACS case on it and stuff like that. And, she even agreed, like, there's no reason for me to be involved in this. They closed it out. Then there was a couple other incidents. So from that point on, the teachers will always mess with her. Right.
Wow.
And so, I already understood what was going on. And so the teachers kept on messing with her, messing with her. And they would always call it ACS, and the ACS would be like, why are we here? Like, there's nothing wrong with her.
Yeah.
She's a regular preteen, right? Then one time, she didn't want to go to school, and I left work early. I went to go see what's wrong with her, and you know she's like, I don't want to go to school. So I'm like, no, you got to go to school. I grabbed it, I put her in the car, and we went to the school. I dropped her off, and then that was that, right? And then they try to use that incident to get me in trouble also, right? Like, oh, you left work early, you went to, to bring it to school. That was protected by ACS. We went through counseling and stuff, and stuff. So they mandated counseling. So we were like, all right, fine, we'll do the counseling, right? Counselor came and they're talking to her like, yeah, she's just a regular teen that doesn't want to go to school. Yeah, no crap. I wouldn't want to go to school neither. The way they
Right.
treat me, the way they're treating her, I wouldn't want to go to school neither. So what ended up happening was we end up homeschooling her, and she's doing much more better, much more better. Like the attitude's gone, all that stuff. She's so happy now, and
Well,
it's
Stephen, the thing is that if, luckily you could do that and take her out and stuff like that. But what about somebody that their parents were working minimum wage job or they were working all different shifts and they couldn't do homeschooling and
right.
they could make that kid seriously suicidal and kill
Yep.
themselves. And that's all on
Yep.
not only the teachers, the principal and the police.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's really sad
It's
that
really, it's really sad. I think what we definitely need is more involvement from social workers and psychiatrists and stuff like that, and people who could talk to these kids, and these kids can have somebody to talk to and go someplace where they feel safe and comfortable to learn.
right,
Like there's so much stuff that goes on. Like there's bullying going on, and then
right,
like the teachers will always take the other person's side because she's Asian, and that neighborhood is predominantly white and
mhm,
Asian, but that she will always get singled out, and I'm like, what did she do? And they're like, oh, she cursed at this kid, and I'll be like, why, Angeline? Why'd you do that? And then she'd be like,
right,
because she's trying to take my friend's lunchbox, you know? And I told him, no, you can't take her lunchbox. And then, I pushed him away. And then that's when he ran and told the teacher. And I'm like, did you hear that? He just tried to steal somebody's lunchbox. Of course she's going to stand up for her because that's
right,
how I taught her. You stand up for
mhm,
what's right. If you see someone being bullied or whatever, you stand up for them. And that's what she did. And I was proud of her. I was proud
mhm.
of her for what she did, and I was really ashamed of how the teachers took it and react to it. So, yeah, this definitely needs more funding and education system where our kids get a fair chance. You know,
Agreed, 100%.
yeah, definitely. Just like the NYPD, like you need to reform them and redirect the budgets to like more training and you know um, better policing and more fair policing. Like
Right.
targeting minority neighborhoods just because you're trying to up your numbers to fight the crime stats, it's not the right move. What ComStat has become, ComStat is a meeting that they have where they go over the crime rate and what we're doing to fight it. And it's disgusting because it's become a political tool where the mayor or somebody else could say, hey, crime is down. Crime is not down. It's because your cops have stopped taking reports for it, or they're reclassifying it as something else, or they're saying, oh, we got arrests up. This is what we're doing, or we got more summonses, or we got more stop, question, frisk. Yeah, but you're doing it to the wrong people. You're not stopping and frisking criminals. You're stopping average Joes that are walking down the street just trying to go home from work. You're summoning people who are just working citizens, and they just by accident forgot to put on the seatbelt or something. They're not like criminals. It's not the targeting of their crimes and stuff like that. It's not right. It's not right. If you look at the stats, it's all in people of color's neighborhoods. You know,
Right.
like
Now, go ahead.
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Now, you unpacked a lot there. And I do want to hit some of these topics, but I do want to roll back into this. You uncovered all this corruption, and to go back to that topic, and I do want to get into stop and frisk and also policing in general, but to go back to your story, Stephen, what happened was, so when you did uncover all that corruption, you went to internal affairs, and
Yeah.
from what I can remember from your story before, was that you had said you had all this audio tapes of this and all this evidence, and it
Yeah.
seems like internal affairs just kind of
Yeah.
wiped it
So
out of their minds. Go ahead.
yeah. So I at that time, my idea of internal affairs and um, what they were about, I thought they were squared away people that were fighting corruption and stuff like that. I didn't know that they were what they are, right?
Mm.
Which is just basically damage control and like PR people, right? It's all smoke and mirrors. I didn't know that. And so I trusted them when they
Mm.
gave me devices. I trusted them with the audio recordings, and I handed everything to them, right? And whenever I got stuff from the big chiefs and stuff like that, they were saying, "Oh, the audio recording wasn't clear,
Mhm.
or, oh, the devices didn't have batteries, they didn't turn on. Dude, you gave me 4 devices and a phone. How did all of them fail? I know my phone was on, so how are you saying, that was no good? And so I realized it was damage control. It was damage control. They didn't want to make the department look bad, that there was big corruption scandal going on, a ring of corruption that went all the way up to the upper brass and stuff like that. And they wanted to isolate it, make it an isolated incident, and be like, look, we nipped it in the butt, it's gone. But it's not gone. It's widespread. And it's still going on now. Yeah.
So, and you are a hero truly for doing that and uncovering that. It's a shame that they don't see it that way. Obviously, they're covering their asses to be,
Right,
honest about it.
right.
Now, have you talked to? Because when I think about uncovering, especially with the NYPD and uncovering all this corruption, we think of Serpico, the movie with Al Pacino, and
Yeah.
obviously there's the real Serpico. Have you ever talked to him about that, or
Yeah,
kind
Frank
of?
Serpico.
Okay,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
talk to Frank Serpico on Twitter all the time.
Oh, wow. Now,
Yeah.
how did that go? Any advice by him? Because they gave him tons of trouble, of course. Obviously, people know that through the movie or if you lived in New York City in general.
Right. He told me just stay strong and know
Mhm.
that you're not alone, and always watch your back, He still goes through it too. Like he's a very isolated person. Um, he lives in like a cabin in the woods somewhere or something like that. And even if you're going to visit him, like he meets you in the town over or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, he's a great guy, man. He's a great guy, very progressive, very uh, um, forward moving person. And, he's still fighting the good fight where he knows that, police needs to be reformed. So yeah.
Steve, that when they think of corruption with the police, they think of, they go in there and get some free donuts or a free dinner or a breakfast,
No,
whatever. I
this was
mean, the
not
stuff that
donuts.
you're talking about is like way insane compared
Yeah.
to something
So
small.
so from firsthand, when we got one of the persons to pay us off, us as in me working on the internal affairs, right?
Mhm.
The guy was giving me two. This is just one person. The guy was giving me $2,000 a month, and then when I shut down his competition, he would give me $10,000 cash. Just one
Wow.
one person, mind you. There's hundreds of bars and stuff like that. There's bunch of places to shake down, right? And you could just imagine, like they were getting at least like $30,000 a month, $40,000 a month, steady, you know, and it was crazy. It's not taking the free coffee and stuff like. Listen, look, the cop going into the Dunkin' Donuts and getting free coffee, free iced tea or whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like he's having a hard day. He's fighting crime all day. He's sitting, there. You want him to be alert. He wants some coffee to be alert.
Yeah.
Okay, he's not taking steak dinners. He's not like, giving favors back in exchange for that free coffee. It's not like that. These people
Even
were,
well, even that, it's way, a steak dinner, I could care less. But if you're talking about somebody raping or getting drug dealers
yeah,
off and all that
exactly.
other,
Like
that's way,
these cops, yeah, these cops were raping girls in the bathrooms in the karaoke's. These cops were protecting rapists also. So because some of the girls were are not sex workers. Not all of them are, right? So you can never say all of them are sex workers or prostitutes in there, right? Some of them are just there just to be, like a hostess, right? Which is just drink with you and that's it, and she makes some money that way, right? But sometimes like the customers really like the girl or whatever, and they make a deal with the mommy, and then the girl doesn't know they drugged the drinks, and then she gets all drugged up, and then the guy drags her out of the place and takes her back to her apartment, rapes her. This is from one person's incident. This is on a true story. The girl wakes up, comes to the precinct, makes a report, says I just got raped. The detective would come down and be like, who's that? Okay, let me get the report, and just make it disappear. you
wow.
know so it's crazy. It's just crazy what they did, and they try to make it, sell it as, oh, we're all Asian, we need to protect, us Asians, we need to stick together. No, dude, you're poisoning our community. You're fucking up our community. You're the reason why that our community is in the slums and stuff like that, right? So they were the problem. Yeah.
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I was speechless for a second because I feel sheltered compared to hearing
Yeah.
all this stuff. I mean, that's
Yeah. Yeah. Like people will get assaulted inside a karaoke and they'll be like, okay, make the report across the street, so it doesn't go back to the bar, so they don't lose their liquor license and stuff like that, and it's just disgusting. And so other cops will come back to me and be like, yo, Sarge, what's up with this, blah, blah. And I'll be like, I can't tell them that I'm on the cover. So I'll be like, don't worry about it. Things will fix itself. Right. And, sometimes they would be getting car stops. Guy would be drugged up, like, coke all over their face and stuff. And then they'll just pull out the PBA card and be like, I know Lieutenant so-and-so. I know, Detective so-and-so. And then they'll be like, all right, whatever, go. Otherwise they get a hard time from the lieutenant. Yeah.
wow.
It's
That's
crazy.
crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
Sorry about that. Like I said, I'm speechless to hear this
No,
stuff.
no, it was crazy. It's just it's still going on because after I left, like maybe a year or two after I left, I saw that there was a case where there was a sergeant shaking down a worker for $10,000, saying that if you don't pay back $10,000, you don't give me $10,000, I'm gonna file a report and arrest you. And I'm like, damn, this stuff is still going on. It's still rampant. It's because they don't cut off the head. They don't solve the problem. You know?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this. I mean, obviously, this problem with corruption has been going on a long time. It's not just the NYPD. It's, a lot of different police forces in around the country. How do you feel like this could get fixed? Do you feel like it could get fixed at all? I mean, it feels like you look at Andrew Cuomo, rather Mayor de Blasio too. It seems like the police union has, a total grip on both of those politicians who are, the two main politicians,
Yeah.
one in New York City, one in the state. So I don't see any of this getting fixed. Do you, with that grip of the police union?
Yeah. So what you need to do is you need to give the power to the community, to the people, right? And you need to have them oversee and monitor the NYPD, right? So the idea is to do this. The idea is to create a higher agency that's not controlled by the mayor, right? Independent from politics, and have them work with with the community to clean the corruption, right? Where the community could actually feel safe. Because sometimes if you see a corrupt cop, you don't feel safe going to the cops to report it. Because you can be like, what if he's in on it? You don't trust anybody. So you want to go to somebody who is part of the community with you and be like, listen, this is what's going on. This cop came in and he tried to shake me down. Okay, cool. Let me investigate it. And then they investigate and they have real power to do something about it. And you definitely need the community in order for the community to trust the police department, to trust the good cops. Again, you need the community to work with the cops, right? The cops and the community need to work together because it's always a us against them type of mentality, right? As police officers, you're always told, oh, it's us against them, right? And then as a public, you see the cops as an enemy, which is like, oh, they're here to, what do they want? What do I do or whatever? So it's like a them against us type of mentality with the community, right? So you need to destroy that, and you need to have the community work hand in hand with the cops, have 1,000% transparency, right? And have, accountability, right? If the cops mess up, the community comes in and be like, look, this is the punishment, right? If the cops, and it should be even across the board. If you're going to punish that person for that, then punish everyone like that.
But do
Right?
you feel like this is more of an issue where we have people that are policing communities that live like 40 miles away from the community they police? We have white people policing Asian communities, black communities. They
Oh,
don't even know
yes.
anything about these
Right.
communities.
So
So
that
that's the
that's
issue.
that's yeah, that's let me tell you what happened when I first started working in Brooklyn. So 8 years I worked in East Flatbush, which is basically a Caribbean, West Indian
Mhm.
neighborhood. I grew up in Flatbush, so I understand the community. There were people that came from Long Island, first time in the city, and they never even seen so many black and brown people before, and they're like, "What's going on here?" Like, and they was culture shocked. They literally said that they were culture shocked, and they didn't understand what was going on, so they were scared. And so when they're scared, they act more aggressive towards it, more defensive, more aggressive. Yeah, you definitely need to educate people on the community they police. You know, you need to have the communities come in and educate them on the culture, let them know what they're about, and talk to them. Gain their trust and make each other feel safe, right? And then work hand in hand together. And if that doesn't work, then you get more minorities, people from that community to police that community, and hire them. And you have to understand that the police department was founded on Irish culture,
Mm.
right? From Ireland and from London and stuff like that. That's why the police flag is green, right?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And that's why they have the green lanterns in front of the station house instead of in front of the precinct. They have the green lanterns lit up at night. It's all based on Irish culture. That's why when the bagpipes come out when there's a funeral or something, So you have to change that. We're not living those times anymore. Um, you know, you have to change the whole system for that, where people who are screening these people are changed, right, to people who actually live in the community, right? And then you can have these people screen and be like, listen, do I want this person policing my community? Yes, I do. Or no, this person's not right for my community. Maybe he's better off policing a different community, But you have to change all that, and it's all systematic. You have to change the system.
Can
You
you
have to
debunk
revamp it.
this if this is true, Stephen? I hear a lot on the news, and we know that there's some truth on the news and a lot of false news too. But with that said, we hear a lot of people saying that there's a lot of underground white supremacists in police forces. I'm not talking specifically about New York, but I'm
All
saying
right.
in general. Do you agree with that? Do you believe that?
Oh, I don't know. In NYPD, um, I don't know about white supremacists.
Yeah.
Um, I would just say ignorant.
Fair, yeah, that's fair.
They're ignorant, where they're always like, oh, look at these savages, and stuff like that. And it's like, I always look at them like, what makes them savages? Why are you calling them savages? Just because you don't understand their culture? That makes no sense to me, right? And it's like, oh, but look at the way they act. Well, that's their culture. You know what I mean? So I don't understand. Like, if they didn't understand your culture, and then you go around blowing bagpipes and be like, why are they wearing skirts and blowing bagpipes? You know what I mean? So
It's
it,
true.
it's a two-way street. You got to understand the culture. You need people who are more
Mm.
and more open to learning. But yeah, I wouldn't say white supremacists. I would say a lot of ignorant upper brass, right? It's gotten a little better.
Mhm.
Uh, are there white supremacists in other police department? I wouldn't be surprised. I'll tell you that much. I wouldn't be surprised. We get warnings sometimes where it's like, oh, Boston is still old school.
Mm.
Um, you know, uh, Texas is old school. LAPD is kind of old school.
Right.
Whereas old school meaning back in the day where the Irish guy would come and just smack you around, be like, listen, you know, N-word person, whatever, or listen, you C-word person for us Asians, like get out of here or whatever, it's old school like that. And it's sad to see it, but one step at a time, we got to change it, right? It's not going to change overnight. We got to we can't just forget about it, because what happens is, like, okay, September 11th came. Yes, we all pay our respects, but you see a lot of people coming out now praising NYPD and stuff like that. Yeah, listen, I lost friends in 9/11.
Mm.
I still honor 9/11. I still honor the good cops that went in there and tried to do their thing and lost their lives. And I feel for the people that lost people during 9/11. But you can't forget, man. The movement can't forget. It has to keep on moving. You have to, just because November 3rd is done doesn't mean we stop fighting police reform,
Mm.
right? Just because November 3rd is done, we stop having Black Lives Matter marches. No, keep the movement going, change it, and you know to a point where we want to all get along. Like with the Black Lives Matter movement, like they're always bashing it. Most of my coworkers bash it, like, oh, look at these people that they're rioting and stuff like that. I'm like, no, they're not. they're two different groups. Don't get fooled by Antifa and them that are coming in, and they're mostly white people. No offense, they're mostly people of color,
Yeah.
and they're causing the havoc and the chaos and stuff like that. But the protesters during the daytime are all peaceful. Was majority of black people is peaceful. Me and my cops were standing one time on the Brooklyn Bridge during the protest,
Yeah.
and they're walking past the Brooklyn Bridge, and it's me and a bunch of people of color police officers, black, brown, all different type of colors. And one of the Black Lives Matter person was on the bridge, and they're like, "We pray for you, thank you, but we pray for you, help us fight the system." And we're like, "Yeah, fight the power. We support you too." Then a white guy on the bike goes by and goes, "Effing pigs! All cops are bastards!" Blah blah. And we're looking at him like, "You're not even a person of color. These, we're people of color talking to another person of color, and we're building a bridge and we're making a bond, right, to show that we're united. We feel what we went through, right? And then here comes this, Antifa kid just walked by and like, "Fuck you, fuck the cops, blah blah." And it's like, why are you so violent? We're trying to build peace here, and you're trying to destroy it with violence. So,
Well, I was told that a lot of these people in all cities around the country that were breaking into the stores, looting, were mostly white kids that were going and stealing stuff. I mean,
yeah.
yes.
So
Go ahead.
it was a lot. It was mixed. It was mixed, and it wasn't even the protesters. And a lot of these stores, don't be fooled. A lot of these big chain stores paid people to go and riot their own stores.
Wow.
Yes, because they weren't making money during COVID-19.
True.
Their stores were shut down during COVID-19, and so when the rioters raided their stores, they could claim insurance on it.
Insurance.
So a lot of them were paid to do it. So don't be fooled. There's a lot of like stuff happening in the background where like people don't see it. And then, I just urge people to do their own research, right? Listen, you don't have to listen to me. They don't have to listen to you. Just do your own research. Don't listen to the person next to you or whatever, just saying something. Do your own research, please, and then if you truly believe in what you believe in, that's your right. I'm not going to infringe on your right, but I just hope that you keep an open mind. And you try to do what's best for the community, what's best for people, because at the end of the day, we're all human.
I just have one more question,
Yeah.
and then, but I appreciate this time. Sergeant Stephen Lee here, and he's running for assemblyman in District 40 in New York City. With that said, last question. We know that there is a lot of crime going on. People,
Yes.
busting into stores, people that are downtown. I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about, and I know you were on patrol during the Black Lives Matter protests too.
Mm-hmm.
We see, and I keep thinking of this video of the New York NYPD van, that NYPD van that went into the protesters, backed up, and then went into them again. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh my God.
It was a big thing on
Yeah.
CNN and
Yeah.
a lot of other.
Yeah.
So first of all, let's talk about that. What's your take on that? And then after that, if you could just answer about, the crime that's going on in the city right now and how,
Yeah.
To police that in general.
That's messed up. What they did was messed up. When we got called in to go out to the protesters, the higher executives said to us, if you get surrounded in a vehicle, just run them over.
Wow.
And we were like, what? No effing way are we going to run them over. And they're like, well, at least back up and act like you're trying to avoid it for the cameras, and then just go forward and run them over. It's fine. Don't worry about it, right? And we're like, are you fucking kidding me? There's no way we're going to run over protests. Then another one came in and said, listen, we just don't want you to feel like you're being castrated and stuff like that. We want you to know that you still have power to do, what you have to do your job, right? And then he was like, look, if somebody's using deadly force against you, then shoot them. And we were like, wait, so now you want us to shoot protesters? Like, are you kidding us? No, they're protesting. It's just property. Look, if they want to destroy the car while I'm in it, destroy the car. Look, take the car, destroy it. You know what I mean? It's property. It's I'm not going to run them over. it's not the right thing to do. Not the right thing to do. You know, if you want to protect yourself, look, protect yourself. Those cars have 1 inch thick glass on it, so you know when they're trying to break in and stuff like that. Yeah, you might get scared, you might get threatened. Yeah, but you know, if they're destroying the hood of the car and stuff like that, let them destroy it.
Mhm.
Is it your car? It's not your car. The city's paying for it. You know what I mean? Like, it's property. You know, like it's not worth your life. It's not worth your job. It's not worth them castorizing you and hanging you for it. You know, because they'll throw you right under the bus and they'll just sacrifice you. You know, to them and be like, yeah, this cop was bad. But meanwhile, you're the one that told me to do it. You know what I mean? So it was wrong. I think that was wrong. I think the person maybe got scared and panicked and you know didn't know how to react, and that's how they reacted. You know, but it was wrong nonetheless. Would I have done that? Uh, Probably not. I probably would have just, you know, it seemed like he reversed pretty far, right? And I would probably just keep reversing. And if they block me behind them, then I'll be like, okay, then I'm stuck here, you know. But there's got to be a reason why they started attacking the vehicle, right? So I'm thinking maybe they were driving through crowds before they got on camera, and they were like, you know, kind of like upset about it. Because when I was out protesting, there was actually a car that almost ran me over.
Wow.
Yeah, so we were on
Is this a regular car or a police car?
no, this is a regular car. So
Okay.
we're you know we're protesting in the street, and then a car, you know, somebody just starts screaming, "Stop that car! They just ran over people!" And I turn around, and the car is coming straight for me, and I'm trying to get out of the way, right? So this is when I'm off duty. I'm trying to get out of the way. I'm trying to move left to get out of the way, and then I see him swerving left, and then I'm like, "What the fuck?" So I try to move right, and he swerves the other way, try to hit me again, and I'm like, "Yo, are you kidding me? Like I'm trying to get out of your way. Like I'm actually trying to get out of your way, and he's just swerving for me." And I'm like, "Yo, f this!" So I jumped out of the way last minute, and he went by, and he just kept on going. And other people were chasing him down and trying to attack the car. Now, that's the reason why they were chasing down the car and attacking the car, because he was running down people. I really honestly don't think that they were trying to hurt anybody. Even when I see some people like destroying police vans when I'm working and stuff like that, they look and see if people are in the van. If they're not in the van, they'll destroy it. If the people are in the van, they don't hurt the people. They just destroy the van, and then they move on to the next thing. You know, they'll taunt you a little bit, like after police and stuff like that. But that's it. It's just property, bro. You know, property can be replaced. You know, so.
So how can the police build better relations right now? I mean, yes, you know, we talk about electing people like you, Stephen, and other people that do want police reform, but right
Mhm.
now it's really like the wild, wild west out there. And,
Yeah.
you know, we hear all these reports. I mean, I know I'm down in Florida. Obviously, you're up there. You know what the
Right.
story is. I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
So you could give a better report about that. But is it really the wild, wild west out there at night? And there's a lot of craziness going on where,
It's getting there. It's getting there. Shootings are definitely up. Even in neighborhoods like where I live in my district in Flushing, usually there aren't that much shootings, but people are getting shot. All right, it's very
wow.
rare to have shootings here, but people are getting shot and killed and stuff like that. Um, what's a good way to earn the trust of the community again? Listen, a lot of the community members love the police. A lot of community members think and believe that we need some kind of law and order, right? But you have to work. You as a police, you can't be on the offensive all the time. You have to work hand in hand with the community, and you have to open up to the community and stuff like that. So just you know, I would say just work more with the community and bridging the gap.
Would you feel like this is a lot though because of the coronavirus that it's, you know, everybody's been inside for so long of a time? Obviously, there's been millions of people around the world that have gotten this virus, but in New York City, thousands of people died. It was one of the worst spots in the world. People are nervous. They don't have work. There's not, you know, they're not getting any money from the government. So, you know, that's why I feel like shootings could go up, crime could go up, break-ins. And I
Well,
feel like this is going to keep continuing. Maybe you
it
disagree?
was it was definitely the perfect storm.
Right.
Um, yeah, people were agitated, being locked, on lockdown and stuff like that. People losing their jobs, wondering how they're going to pay rent, wondering how to get food on the table and stuff like that. And you can't blame the police department for that. You gotta blame the
No.
politicians. The politicians release, government funds for it, and then those government funds just disappeared. And it's like it didn't go into the people's pockets. So one of my things on my platform, my number one issue is helping people recover from coronavirus. I'm pushing UBI, universal basic income, on a state level, to get money directly into the people's pockets. I don't want to go and filtering through some kind of organization or some kind of committee and stuff like that where it disappears somewhere, right? Or give it to the mayor and then let the mayor. No, give it directly to people's pockets. Let it hit their their bank accounts and stuff like that. Go directly into their pockets. Give grants to renters where they're hurting on rent. Give them like a voucher or something like that, and they could give that voucher to the landlord, and the landlord will claim it as a tax credit or something. Like where both sides could win, right? One side doesn't have to lose, right? There's an ongoing battle. Oh, rent freeze. Oh, but what about the landlords? Okay, give them a voucher. Like you can claim tax credit for whatever amount of months that you lost out on rent, right? Puts money in both their pockets. Also, small businesses, money directly into their pockets. Why go to the SBA where they choose and pick who they're giving the money to? Because some of those people of color businesses are not getting it, and then like big chain businesses are getting it. They're not small businesses. Why are they getting it? They're getting millions of dollars, and then yet the small businesses in the neighborhood didn't see a dime of it. I know so many people that complain to me that they haven't seen a dime of it, or they ran out of funds, or they say that I don't qualify because we're Asian. We're not considered people of color or stuff like that. The body just said that. The body just said that Asians are not considered people of color. We're considered adjacent to white people, which makes no sense to me.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, stuff like that, like money directly into the people's pockets. The second thing is pushing for safety and, reforming the NYPD and having the community work together with the police department and fixing that bond that we used to have. The third thing is full funding of schools, and hopefully that our students can have after school programs and programs during school and the equipment that they need, and this way you don't have to worry about the minority neighborhood not getting the tools that they need. Everybody will have all the tools that they need, not just the privileged neighborhoods, but all the neighborhoods. Everybody should have everything. They're children. Why are you gonna let them suffer? Like I don't understand that. They need to grow. They need the tools to grow correctly, right? And after school programs so they can have some place to go after school, because they hang out in the street because they have no place to go.
And that's how a lot of these kids get into gangs, because they have
Yeah,
nowhere to go. Their parents are
exactly.
working. They're not home.
Exactly. So make after school programs where they could socialize together and they could bond, and you could monitor them and make sure they're doing the right thing, teach them, on life and stuff, and give them something to do with. They could play basketball, go swimming, or drawing, art, stuff like that. So yeah, those
No,
are my three platforms. Yeah.
I appreciate it, Stephen. And Sergeant Stephen Lee, definitely check
Yeah.
out stevefornewyork.com. I think this guy is a true hero and a patriot. And I'm not just
Thanks.
saying that to blow you up. I'm saying it because it's the truth. Because we don't have many people that are in any line of work stand up against the establishment like you are. And
You need to.
you're still
Yeah.
and you're still working in
Yeah.
that work. It's standing up
Well,
against them. So
I'm trying to get out of the profession, but
right.
um, I need to. We need to change it. We definitely need to change, and it's not the only system that needs changing. Correction
Agreed.
system needs changing.
Oh,
Prisons
yeah.
need changing. The prisons have become a profit. It's just like it's privatized and it's become a profit, and the prisoners are just mere numbers for them to generate more money, which is disgusting. That's the reason why they want to keep these the people in prison. Because so they can make more money for them, and that needs to change. And I spoke to people that done time before, and they're like, listen, why don't we just, instead of the money going to these privatized places, have the money go back into the prison system, and then when they make money back into the prison system, they get more stuff, more benefits inside the prisons, and it'll be better for them. They could actually learn and change. So there's so much stuff that needs fixing, man. I just hope that I could get in an office and just start fixing. Even if I don't, I'm going to be pushing and pushing out here and fighting out here. But it'll be easier if I'm in office.
Agreed. And we need
Yeah,
people to fight the establishment, whether
yeah,
it's in Albany or in New York City or in
yeah.
Flushing, wherever it is. And I appreciate you doing that. I appreciate you serving New York City and Flushing in general. And thanks so much for coming on, Stephen. It really means a lot that you're doing what you're doing. And I
Yeah,
really
no
hope you
problem.
win. And I hope people check out your website, stevefornewyork.com. So thanks so much for coming on.